Hi, this is Donna from Clever Crafting and thank you for joining me today. So today I'm making this lovely trifold card and it is from our African Adventure Kit. So I just wanted to go through some of our card makers kits and what we have in them. The really important part is the booklet that comes in every one of our kits, and it's got materials lists. So we'll have a photo of the card, then a materials list which comes under supplies. You'll find all of those things in the actual kit. Then things that you may need from your stash. This is generally tools, glue, that type of thing. Then when we turn over the page, in this we've got our instructions, so that's the text at the top, and we've also got diagrams in this case about cutting and scoring. So, and we have these sorts of bits and pieces of information for 6 cards that, and all the materials, as I said, will be in the kit. Okay, so now let's go down to the cards. So today we're going to need some ephemera, so these were in the kit. We're actually using a tree today. That tree is a die that also comes in the kit. It's a layered tree. So that's it there, it's kind of cute. We've got a piece of paper, once again it came in the kit. We're going to start with a piece of card, an A5 piece of card, which is 14.8 centimeters by 21 centimeters. And we are going to draw a line from one of the shorter edges at 2.5 centimeters from the edge. So you can see here that what I'm doing is I am actually marking that 3 times the 2.5 centimeters. I just find that I will draw a straight line if I've got 3 lots. Quite often if I just do 2, it might be off a little bit. So it's always good, I think, to put 3 dots and then draw my line. I'm now going to turn it around to the other side. Oh, actually no, that's right. I'm just going to leave it this way, and on this edge, the other edge, I'm going to draw a line at 4.5 centimeters from the edge. So I didn't think you needed to see me do all of the dots again, so I cut that bit out. So now we're going to draw a 4 centimeter edge, 4 centimeters, I beg your pardon, from the long edge. So once again, I'm going to draw my dots and I'll draw my lines, and we're doing 4 centimeters from each one of the long edges. Okay, so now we're going to cut along between where my fingers are there. So that's on the internal line, just on the long internal lines. So for this, I'm going to use a ruler, my metal ruler, and a craft knife. So I'm just lining up my metal ruler along my line there, and I'm going to use my craft knife to cut along that long line between the other 2 shorter lines. I don't want to go any further than that. So I'm doing that on that side, and then I'm going to flip the card over and I'm going to do it on the other side as well. You can see that slit there, and I'm going to cut this one as well. There we are, and you can see now that that's cut on each side of that slit. So now what we're going to do is do some scoring. Now we need to put the long edge up against the edge of your scoring board with the 2.5 centimeter, where the line is the 2.5 centimeter on the left hand side. Now I'm actually scoring there at the 2.5 centimeters, but just between those long lines. I'm not going right to the edge here. I'm only doing between the lines. So I did that 2.5 centimeters, at 5 centimeters, at 8.5 centimeters, and at 12 centimeters. So I'm just following that line down, and I'm going and I'm just scoring the middle section. I'm going to turn that around now because my scoreboard doesn't go out far enough, and I'm going to score at 4.5 centimeters. So on that line that we drew, but on the other end, and once again, just the shorter section of it. Okay, so now one last bit of scoring, and this time we're only going to score on the outer edges, and we're going to score at 10.5 centimeters. So I am going to score just down to where I've cut and then start at the bottom and go up to where I've cut in that center section. So that's actually halfway against the card. So now we're just going to do a little bit of folding. So we're going to start from our 2.5 centimeter end and we're going to make a mountain fold. Can you see that? Just in the center section. Then a valley fold, still just in the center section, a mountain fold, a valley fold, and then a mountain fold. And then the 2 folds on either side, which is the center of the card. And there we have our 3 steps. Nice and simple. Now, if you missed that, it's not a bad idea to go back and watch that whole process again. So now all I'm doing is just erasing the pencil marks. we're going to add our piece of paper. So this started off as an A6 size piece of paper. I did have the measurements up earlier, but the measurements are 10.5 centimeters tall by 14.8 centimeters wide. And you can see here I'm just using some low tack masking tape and taping it onto the front of my card. And I'm marking where I have cut that centerpiece out. Now, I like to draw that in there just in case it's a little bit out because I want this paper to fit on perfectly. So once I've done that, I'm then going to get my ruler, and on the other edge, I'm going to measure up 2.5 centimeters. Then I'm going to draw a line down from the marks that I made that when I had the piece of paper attached to my card to the line that I've drawn at the bottom. Once again, I'm going to grab my craft knife and I'm going to cut that section out of my paper. So you can see there, I'm just carefully cutting that out. You can also use a paper trimmer if you're really adept at using them. I prefer to use my craft knife in this instance. Oh, you could actually even use a pair of scissors if you wanted to. I just find the craft knife is nice and straight and gives me a very accurate cut. So I'm just carefully cutting along there. Okay, so I'm just going to pop those out in the corners, and this is the piece that fits inside. So I'm making sure I've got it the right way up, and I'm going to cut a piece 3.5 centimeters from the bottom of that little piece. So I'm just cutting that on my guillotine. There's no need to use my knife and ruler for that. So you can see now that these little pieces fit in our card. So let's adhere them in. So I'm just grabbing some of our Smart Art glue and popping that around the edges, a little bit on the inside. And I'm going to pop that in position. Now, the 2.5 centimeter fold is the front of the card. So this one I'm putting on the back mountain section of the card. So can you see that? So you can see it a little bit at the end. I'm going to miss that next little one, and then I'm going to put the next piece of paper in there. This is so from the front of the card, you don't see any white, you just see the colored paper or the patterned paper. So I'm just, don't know what I'm doing there. All right, back to it. And I'm positioning that into place. All right, lovely. So now the other piece that we cut originally. So this is the remainder of our A6 piece of cardstock, of pattern paper, I beg your pardon. So that is going to be stuck on the front. I'm not going to make you watch me put all of the glue on it, but suffice it to say, I put glue on the back and then I put it in position there. I like using glue because it gives me a couple of seconds that I can move it around if I need to. So there is the base of our card. So I didn't want all the white edges. I could have cut all the white edges off my ephemera, but what I really find a lot easier in this particular instance is just use some of my vintage photo and go all around the edges of my ephemera, and then the white isn't so noticeable. So I did that for both my zebra and my giraffe. So I'm just going to decide where to put these. You have no idea how long it took me to fluff around with this, so I cut most of it out and just put a little bit in. But what you want to do is find out where you want it positioned, and then we're going to grab some glue and put it into place. So the tree I've decided to put at the back, so I've put some glue at the bottom. What you can't see there is I'm actually also putting some on the side of the tree. Now, although I did this and I positioned the tree, I put it in place and I secured it, making sure that it doesn't go above the top edge of the card because we want to make sure it fits in our envelope. You'll see me a little later actually change that around. Anyway, let's pop our giraffe in. So once again, I'm just seeing where he's going to go. I'm just going to pop some glue on his legs. And I'm going to secure my giraffe into position as well. Of course, there's lots of different ephemera in the Card Makers Kit, so you can choose to use whatever you like. Or you might not even be using the kit, so whatever you've got in your stash will work beautifully. So can you see here, I've discovered that that doesn't work really well with that tree stuck in there, so I've unstuck it and I've just let it fly free, and it looks so much better when it's in its upright position, which you'll be able to see at the end of the video. All right, so now I'm just popping some glue on the legs of the zebra. You can't see me doing it, but you can see my shadow doing it there, so that was pretty cool. That's now in place. So I decided I wanted to put a greeting. So this is one of the stickers that are also in the Card Makers Kit. It just says happy birthday. But of course I couldn't just stick it on where I wanted it to. So I am going to stick that on a piece of scrap card that I just happened to have left over on my desk. And that's not a surprise. Anyone who's seen my desk knows that it's always got lots of bits and pieces on there. I'm just using my Smart Snips here, which are titanium coated scissors, and trimming off that excess around the outside of my sticker. Now, I don't want to see that white, so I'm just going to grab some vintage photo, which is the same color that I used around the outside of my ephemera, and I'm just going to stick the edges of my greeting in here so you don't see it. In hindsight, I realize, and you'll notice in the photos, that I probably should have used some of that vintage photo around the folders, around the edges of the white cardstock as well of my card, but you know, it's okay. It works beautifully. So because I popped that on card now, I can stick it out over the opening. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of the Smart Art glue on that, just halfway, so I can stick it into place where I want to put it. Of course, you can put your greeting wherever you like on your card. And there we are. There's the card. It has such a beautiful three-dimensional effect when it's all done. So I've got some photos here for you, and I've also got photos of another envelope that I made. It's a different envelope than you saw at the beginning, where when you open up the envelope, the top of the tree actually is stuck to the flap of the envelope, and the branches are, you know, the trunk of the tree is down further. So I hope you enjoyed yourself today. I hope you learned something, and if you did, it would really be a great help if you gave us a thumbs up. Until next time, stay safe and happy crafting.